Hey guys, this video is dedicated to all of the unreleased heroes on Global. I want to share with you my thoughts on the ones that I am most looking forward to coming, and I want to cover the biggest heroes that we are missing, the most important ones to save for or anticipate joining us. So this is the test server, that way I have access to them all. This is a content creator server with just a bunch of resources that we can use. I'm just going to go top down to the most important ones that are in it. So first up is Alaura, as you can see right here. Alaura is just ridiculously good, and I think at the moment she is the hero I am most anticipating of all. What makes Alaura so good is that she is permanently invisible when she is not using her ultimate. This means that she cannot be targeted or attacked. The base of her auto attack is just 100% damage to airborne units, so it's nothing crazy. She does gain increased crit rate, so it's easy to gear her, and she actually gains increased crit damage as well if there are no allies next to her, which is very important to how we use her. During her ultimate, each crit deals an additional 80% damage to enemies within 1.5 tiles. So without her ultimate activated, all she really has is base damage, some bonus crit, and some bonus crit damage if there are no allies nearby. This is giving her splash damage when she ults, and when she does ult, it loses her invis state. She attacks twice and it increases airborne damage by 60%. So she just double attacks and she does bonus damage to airborne enemies. That's all there is to it, really. The reason she's so good is because, of course, the invisibility state and being built around being a solo hero. So you can see where she's used. She's, of course, a gear raid free right lane hero. She can handle that entirely by herself, better even than Hatsa. She definitely has less damage output than Hatsa. She's not a nuker in the same way Hatsa is. However, she is a Piercer and Watcher hero. She's duo faction between two decent enough factions, especially Piercer for Gear Raid 3. So this is my Gear Raid 3 stage 20 auto run on the test server. You can see her on the right here using an Idril's Gaze, Tariel's Gaze, they renamed it Artifact, and she can just handle this by herself. She does have Power of Dominance now, of course, but yeah, she's just fantastic for this side. She's not going to get hit by these Evil Eye Tyrants. She can just kill them by herself. No concerns whatsoever. She's really, really good at handling this lane. And then when these guys come up, you can pop her ultimate if you need to. And now she starts dealing splash damage. I had some assistance from a Tariel over here. But yeah, super good. When the wave's over here, she can ult to kill them. When they're here, she can not ult and just kill them as normal. So that's why she's super good. Basically, this entire position right here, she can just handle this lane by herself, which is, I think, a really hard lane to deal with. Usually people are going to be using a Tariel or Idril eventually to deal with this, but yeah, this is what she's great for. Obviously you can use her in other content as well. She'll be good in Void Rift for the same reason, being untargetable. So yeah, I really want her. She would help me massively in Gear Raid 3. The next hero that's good, that's coming to Global eventually, would be Brokkir. Brokkir is just a ridiculous defender. He's probably one of the best defenders in the game, I think quite easily. He just flat reduces allies' damage taken by 10%. If he is frozen, then the damage reduction is 30%. Him being frozen sounds weird, but it's part of his mechanics. Basic attack is standard. He has a passive that he has a 15% chance on receiving damage to freeze 2 enemies for 1 second, and if he is frozen himself, the chance increases from 15 to 20%. So all this stuff about him being frozen, well, his final passive, Iceberg, when he receives fatal damage for the first time, he gains freeze. He freezes himself for 12 seconds and he becomes invulnerable to all damage. This is super good because it's not invincibility, it's not unyielding, this is immunity to damage. That means you can max heal him during this time, which is really good. That means you can max heal him during this time, so it's super nice, and the freeze is going to increase the damage reduction to 30% on allies and increase his chance of freezing enemies. So that's obviously super good, and his ultimate frost armor, he freezes himself for 10 seconds, and he gives himself a shield equal to 120% of his max HP. So not only is he gaining a massive shield, he's also reducing damage taken by 30% to himself and adjacent allies. So it just makes him an incredible defender. He's amazing in Gear Raid 2. He can survive the shrieks by himself using this ultimate, which is amazing. And if you make a mistake or if he takes too much damage from something, he can survive with Iceberg. He's also reducing the damage taken to nearby allies, so this is just incredibly good. He's just a fantastic Gear Raid 2 hero. And generally on the Forerunner server, my two go-to defenders are Brokkir and Olag. Those two are the best in my opinion. The next hero, the one that I'm actually really looking forward to and I really hope to get, is Constance, the Gimpadin. She is another attack booster. She is an inspiration boosting defender. She can be placed as a ground tile hero, so we actually have a healer, a dedicated healer that's a ground tile healer. I know people use Muriel in that way, and she can do some good healing, but honestly, Constance's healing is very good. It's actually like proper healing. She can also block as a defender. She restores bonus rage to herself really rapidly to get her ult up. She can proc heals based on receiving damage and allies receiving damage, but mainly it's the ultimate for the 45% inspiration buff. So I like it because it gives you some interesting utility. For example, in the guild boss, you could deploy her in the middle here, and then you can build your team around her, something like this. And now you've actually got one healer covering all of your fighters, and you've got 3 tiles extra over here to place ranged heroes if you want more DPS, and Elo in a layer, and she's going to be able to boost everyone with her inspiration ultimate. So it's a Dolores that will allow you to actually boost 5 fighter tiles rather than just 3. And if you can see, she's actually healing for a decent amount. She heals herself whenever she heals, so she's granting good heals to her allies, and then when needed to, she can ult to provide a big damage increase, which will apply to everyone in range. Constance also has decent base stats. She has better attack than Dolores, but not massively, but the HP is so different. This is well over double the max HP of Dolores, so Glacier Set will be very, very good on her. In my Gear Raid free run, I did actually use her in the middle, but I had to place her so late because she is quite expensive. But I do like the utility of being able to cover the entire middle area, 4 tiles rather than just 3 tiles that Dolores would make a bit more awkwardly. Though Dolores can boost one of the fighter tiles, so it's not bad, but yeah. I quite like the utility of Constance for situations like this. It's easier to get her in the middle, boosting the attack of more platform heroes. But there is a big trade-off in the cost. Dolores is so cheap versus Constance. Dolores costs only 5 to deploy, compared to Constance, who costs 18. So 5 versus 18 deployment cost. It goes against Constance quite heavily, but I do think she'll be very good. She's a proper healer and an attack booster in one, and she is much more survivable than Dolores as well. So yeah, I quite like Constance. I'm excited for when she gets introduced. And then next, one that most people are quite excited about is Hex. Hex is a single target nuking mage. He has quite a complicated kit, so it's going to be quite long to explain, so I'll be fairly brief. Basically, he gains a stack of Card of Fate every time he makes an attack, and when he gets 4 stacks, he then randomly chooses a card from Temperance, Death, and Strength. Temperance does this amount of damage and slow, Death does this amount of damage and burning, and Strength does this amount of damage and boosts his attack speed, just to make it quick. And he deals extra damage to airborne units, but it doesn't say. Is that... yeah, I don't understand. I guess it's because he's not piercing. He's actually magic damage type, so he deals bonus damage to heavy armored units. So he doesn't get the piercing damage to light, and most airborne units are light, so I don't know. Maybe they included this to help with that, but I wish they told us what it actually was. Basic attack is just standard, the usual scaling. He has a passive. Each attack launches a 20% chance to inflict a stun for 2 seconds, and damage to enemies that are crowd controlled, such as stun, freeze, or immobilize, increases by 60%. Not slowed though. Stun, freeze, and immobilize. He has another passive, of course, which is Fate the Hermit. When he receives damage, he resists the damage and becomes invisible for 3 seconds, but this triggers only once every 40 seconds, and at no skill ups that would be 50 seconds. So this one is interesting. It can be very clutch, but yeah, it means he dodges damage every 40 to 50 seconds and goes invisible. And then we have his ultimate. When triggered, increases damage by 140% and attack speed by 100%, and reduces his attack interval by 50%, and it replaces all cards instead of these with the Joker. The Joker is 400% damage 3 times and inflicts burning 5 seconds. So yeah, massive damage increase of 140%, then a triple attack of 400% damage for 5 seconds burning as well, and then more attack speed interval, while also granting 100 attack speed and reducing his attack interval by 50%. So it's a very stacked ultimate, as you can see. Hex is basically a single target nuker. I think of him as a single target mage more than anything else. He just pumps out ridiculous damage. He's really good at eliminating a single target fast. He can duck these attacks in Guild Boss, which is useful. It just makes it easier to heal your allies up, as he's going to be avoiding damage. Probably every other attack he'll be able to dodge. He won't dodge this one, unfortunately. But mainly he's useful for his ultimate. He just does so much damage when he fires these cards out. So you can see some massive hits coming out from this. My main hang up is he pauses and does these really slow attacks. They're massive damage, but if you're using him in arena where you need him to do damage at a certain time and then he just stops and charges an arrow randomly, I find it kind of frustrating in certain content, but overall he does do a lot of damage. The next hero I'm interested in joining is Moore. Not because he's particularly good, just because he's interesting. So each attack has a 25% chance of inflicting bleed. So he's another bleed hero and he's not chaos. So it gives people an alternative to Salazar or trying to pull Chaos heroes. Moore has a basic attack which is pretty standard. He has a chance to knock enemies back, dealing bonus damage and increasing the damage with bleed. And he has another passive, killing enemies permanently boosts his stats. But his ultimate executes one enemy within range. It takes 3 seconds and afterwards he gains a attack speed and attack bonus for 15 seconds. It's pretty random, it's quite weird, but I find it quite amusing. So I've just boosted him to Awakening 3 so I can show you something quite funny. It's not that useful, I just find it funny. So it means that when it's triggered, he gains his ult back immediately and it has a 90-second cooldown and the bonuses from his ult can stack. So what that means is he can ult twice in a row. So I'm just going to auto some gear on him. That's awful, don't do this. It's just for the sake of what I want to show you, which I just find funny. And it's just funny to me. Like, check this out. He just grabs them and kills them rather than getting hit. So if you had a healer on him, he could just solo the start quite easily. I mean, even without a healer. He just grabs it and kills it, and then we can despawn him. Yeah, it's just a weird little niche. I like stuff like that because I feel like it's got to have some kind of... There's going to be a place where that's incredibly good, right? It's just so specific and so niche, but there's going to be somewhere where that's just really useful to have. Obviously, A3 is a bit of a stretch, but I just wanted to show it because it's kind of amusing. Next up, one of the heroes I think will be the most important to pull. So I think out of the ones I've shown, there are a few that are cool, but in my opinion, I think Alaura is super important because of how useful she is in Gear Raid 3. Well, Laseer is basically the equivalent in Gear Raid 1. Passively, his attacks and his ultimate apply sand erosion. Each stack deals magic damage equal to 10% of his attack per second for 10 seconds, and it stacks up to 3 times, so 30% of his attack per second. Yeah, that's pretty cool. 30% damage per second for 10 seconds, just stacking on everyone he hits. His base attack hits up to 5 enemies, so that's pretty cool AoE damage. Every 5 seconds, he inflicts slow on adjacent enemies based on their sand erosion stacks. These stack up to 3 times, so the slow is either 25%, 50%, or 75%, and at max skill, it's a 5-second duration slow. He is a Curse faction member, so having slow inflicting is really good for applying their Curse Lord damage bonuses. And Undead Erosion and max stacks basically means that if an enemy dies with 3 stacks of his talent Sand Erosion on them, enemies within basic attack range gain those 3 stacks. So it kind of just spreads the stacks around to other enemies, so it makes sure that everyone is taking this AoE damage, which is pretty cool. But the main reason he's used is, of course, his ultimate. He's a mage. It is Ominous Sandstorm. It deals 800% damage AoE, and it inflicts anti-healing. This is a 100% heal block for 15 seconds. This is at max skill. 15 seconds of 100% heal block is kind of crazy. This is Gear Raid 1 stage 19. We're just going to get some damage out on the enemies so we can see this in effect. It does have quite a long channel time, so that's something to be aware of. But there we go. So the boss is applying Jungle's Grace. So now I'll ult around the halfway mark, and you can see it takes a place just about as the boss starts casting the heal. And now you can see there are no heals being applied to these enemies at all, other than there seems to be some kind of healing getting through. So that's a bit odd. Anyway, yeah, it seems like no one's getting healed other than that one guy, and I'm not sure if that's some special ability or a bug. But yeah, you can see Laseer has the ability to block healing completely. This just makes him so good in Gear Raid 1, and I'm sure you can imagine how many people were able to beat it with thanks to Laseer. Anyway, those are the main heroes I wanted to cover in this video that are yet to come to the global server, but these are the more attainable ones and the ones that I'm personally looking forward to the most. And these are the ones that I'll be saving my summons for in particular, mainly Alaura and Laseer. Those are the two for me because Gear Raid progression, in my opinion, is the most important thing in the game. Hex is, of course, fantastic. He's a great guild boss killer. He's really good in Void Rift. He's great in Chapter 9. But I feel like there are alternatives for that kind of stuff. So although Hex is really good, he's a ridiculous single target nuker, really great magic damage. I don't find him very reliable in Arena because of his massive pauses with his bow, though he does absolutely shred. So yeah, for me personally, I'm more looking forward to the heroes that will help me progress in the Gear Raids, which is Alaura for Gear Raid 3, Laseer for Gear Raid 1, and Constance just because I like the utility of having a ground tile healer and attack booster. So those are the 3 that are my most important pulls out of the ones I've showed you, though there are definitely some very good heroes in here that are coming soon. So yeah, that's all I want to show for this video, guys. I hope you find it interesting, and I wish you luck when you pull for them in future. All the best, take care, and bye-bye.